Good afternoon. Welcome. My name is Kelly Wyszynski. I'm the Youth Services and Education and Outreach Coordinator for the Milwaukee Public Library. And I am so pleased to welcome you to the third annual Milwaukee Youth Poet Laureate Finals here at the library's Centennial Hall complex. The library's mission is inspiration starts here. We help people read, learn, and connect. And I love an event like today's because it's just that mission coming to life. And we're so thankful for the community coming in to experience that with us and to the great partners that we are able to work with, like Woodland Pattern. We really are grateful for this connection with Woodland Pattern and the Youth Poet Laureate program. And again, this opportunity to invite the community into our spaces to really uplift young, powerful voices. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Antonio Vargas Nieto, the Assistant Programming Director at Woodland Pattern, and I am so excited to be here for the third annual Youth Poet Laureate program. We work so hard to put this together for you, and I'm so just stunned by the amount of people that are here. We have various laureates throughout, from Milwaukee, from Wisconsin. It's just so nice to see so many people support the next generation of talented youth. We have a really great program for you tonight, or today, I should say. And we're just gonna get started. I'm just gonna introduce everyone. I'm gonna introduce our judges, our host. So we're so honored to have Angie Trudell Vasquez be our host. She was the Madison Poet Laureate from 2020 to 2022 and ran the sort of older sibling program to our Youth Poet Laureate program. I believe they have existed for 1 year longer, so they already have their third laureate. So it's really great to have Angie, who spearheaded that program, here hosting. Who better to lead us through this next selection? Then we have Aleena Ahmed, our second Youth Poet Laureate, which it's been such an honor getting to know Aleena and watching her grow and watching her poetry just get better and better and better, just amassing more work all the time and inspiring other generations. And then we have, of course, our judges. We have Cass Bruner, who is a PhD student and the poetry editor at Cream City Review. We have Tina Nixon, who is the creative founder of My Sista's KeepHer. And then bonus, we are very lucky to have Shelly Conley stepping in to be a judge for us. Shelly Conley is the current Milwaukee Poet Laureate. So again, just so many great laureates, and we have Peggy Rosga in the audience, who was our host last year. So yeah, we just have so much support, and it's so wonderful to have that. And then I'll just introduce our three finalists, and they'll take a seat, and then Angie will take over. So this year, from Tenor High School, we have Ilysium Nollie. We have from University School of Milwaukee, Angela Wang, and then we have Oscar Anwaatin O'Naughton-Whitefeather from Reagan High School. Please give them a round of applause. I feel very lucky to know each of them a little bit in their own way. Angela submitted last year, and it was a really tough decision to not have Angela included, but we're so happy that Angela is here. And then we have Ilysium Nollie and Oscar, who are both poetry camp students, so it's just such a great honor to have just our students rise to such a great level to be finalists for the Youth Poet Laureate program. So what I'm gonna do now is I have 3 slips of paper to determine our order, and then Angie will take over. Okay, so first we'll have Oscar, then we'll have Angela, then Ilysium. So first we'll have Angie.
I want to say thank you for inviting me. I love Woodland Pattern, I love libraries, and I lived in Milwaukee from 2005 to 2015. And then I moved to Madison, and I was actually the Poet Laureate from 2020 to 2024. So a long time, but a wonderful time. And I looked at Dasha's presentation and I made some notes, but I want to say, why poetry? So for me, the backstory is Frederick the Mouse is a children's story by Leah Leone that I was introduced to as a young poet. So I started writing at the age of 7. I was so inspired by Frederick the Mouse in that children's short story that it's become my everyday. When I was the Poet Laureate for Madison, I was super excited about bringing a Youth Poet Laureate program to Madison. And it was great, they put me in the role, but it wasn't until Amanda Gorman spoke then, and it got great coverage, that they were like, yes, we're ready, let's do it. So we were able to start that midway through. And honestly, the first year, we didn't have the funds, so I donated my honorarium, and that's how we got started. And then after that, I'm like, now you need to find the money for that, and they did. And so they're on their 4th. Madeline Bone was the first, Maliha Newman, who was the second. They were in my cohort. And we would meet every week. We would talk about, or every month, we'd talk about poetry. And we put together a collection of poetry that mixed ekphrastic poetry and poems of the students. And we partnered with Edgewood College, and they created art to the poems. And I put the copy down, but I'll show it later. And it's a beautiful collection. So just bringing all these folks together is just amazing. And I would say I've been a poet wherever I've lived, in the Pacific Northwest, in Iowa where I'm from, in Milwaukee, and in Madison, but I've traveled around. And Wisconsin has one of the most vibrant poetry scenes anywhere in the country. And wherever I go, I talk up Woodland Pattern. If you don't know Woodland Pattern and you run into me, I'm going to tell you all about it. So just know that, when you are a Poet Laureate, you're an ambassador for poetry. And I should say I was also the chair for the State Poet Laureate Commission, so I would help select on the state roll. And that's been such a joy. Now you have Brenda Cardenas, who's from here. She was your Milwaukee Poet Laureate, now she's the State Poet Laureate. So much goodness comes from creating community and poetry and sharing ideas and who we are and our histories. I like to think we're the sum of our literary ancestors, so every song and every movie and every short story or poem or novel, it all comes together. And we weave these wonderful things as poets between keen observation and that we come together. So I think about myself being in high school, in my room, putting together my poems, carefully handwriting them, because believe it or not, we didn't all have laptops back then. I graduated from high school in 1986, so everything was handwritten. And I put my zines together. I didn't even know they were zines, and I would share them out. But if I had had a mentor like you all do, if we had had poetry camps, and truth is I taught poetry camp for a couple years, and it was a joy. So this coming together, Milwaukee on your third Youth Poet Laureate. The places that you'll go, the people you'll meet, once a laureate, always a laureate. Never forget to put that on your resumes, your CVs. I've said I can teach anyone from 4 to 80. And I think poetry really has a place in our culture. If you think about the Statue of Liberty, there's a poem on the Statue of Liberty. It was commissioned, right? When we're born, there's poems. When we die, there's poems. When we have celebrations of life, there's poems. Poetry has a place. And if you think about maybe language was our first technology. One of my professors at the Institute of American Indian Art said that, and I love to think about, I don't know if it's true, but if language was our first technology, the desire to connect, the desire to communicate, to share, it makes us who we are, this human thing. And we all have this ability to connect with poems. And that's the beautiful thing. When I write, I want to connect, only connect. And I'm way off script here, but I'm really feeling this because we're making history. You're going to do something beautiful. You're going to come up here. You're going to share a part of yourself. You're going to be brave and vulnerable, and you're going to do well. If I could say one thing about the future of poetry, as you go out into the world, don't compete against each other, even though I know it's a competition, but be cheerleaders for all of the folks, you know? Because really, we are poets, and we work on our craft, and we work quietly, and we read, and we write, and if you're like me, you're a poet groupie, and you've been traveling your whole life to see these poems. I've seen Gwendolyn Brooks and Lawrence Ferlinghetti, you know, like, that's no small thing. Sherry Moraga, you know, this history of poetry that we're standing on is deep and rich and beautiful, and some of us write in more than one language, but we can take the English language, which is the language of the colonizers, right? Because I'm second and third generation Mexican American, and we can own it, and we can turn it into something beautiful, and we can share a piece of ourselves. So that's what we're here today. You're making magic. You're creating something out of nothing, out of ideas and thoughts and feelings, and you're translating all of that into poetry. And that's a beautiful thing. So never forget, you're a poet. You could be washing dishes, you're a poet. When you're shuffling your papers around, you're a poet. When you're painting your house and you're running through lines in your head, you're always a poet. So with that, we will start. I think I've said enough about poetry right now that we'll get going here. But it is my honor to be here with my friend Peggy and here with Shelly. And, you know, we're doing something really cool. And uplifting the youth voices is important because we're getting tired, some of us. We need you to come along. And what I really love about poetry is you can learn from younger folks, you can learn from the elders. And my friend Peggy told me once she was writing the best poems in her 70s, and I tell people that all the time, like, I can't wait to keep getting older, because theoretically, my poems should keep getting better. Right, Peggy? Yeah. Okay. With that, I'm gonna bring to the stage, and please give Oscar a big welcome of encouragement, Oscar Anwaatin O'Naughton-Whitefeather from Reagan High School.
Give me one moment here. Hello? What's up? Give me a minute here to get my thing situated. How's that weather we're having? I have 3 poems. I don't know why I say that like you wouldn't know, because everyone does. But I have 1 short poem, and I have 1 medium-length poem, and I have 1 long poem. So this will be a very well-rounded experience for you. My first poem is entitled, is this okay? You can hear me? Okay, I'm making sure. My first poem is entitled Improvised Nativity. Bindigeg and boujou, from yours truly, half-bred dreg of culture half dead. The way I keep my shit together, you could call me solder, half lead. Hacker and slasher, redskin and cracker, serpent and vulture, obsessing over lost culture. For an age I wandered, and for an age I was gone, eventually woken by a mangy coyote song. I carry the sins of my forefathers and the sins of most of yours, more pressingly the sins of your children, the bodies that cover the floor. Most of my people these days have forgotten their ways, lost our traditions by way of forced cultural transition. But I can still feel it, lingering under the grease-stained shell of this country white lit, deeply ingrained. I can see it in the sky and feel it on the breeze. It makes me feel high and weak in the knees. I see it in the leaves that dance in the trees, and in sheets of soft rain, they whisper my name. I feel it in my legs, a dull throbbing ache, and taste it in the eggs the swallowbirds make. Yes, my eyes see it all, everything held in store, the screams of my ancestors, the carnage of war, the bones of old tribes, and the blood of many more. Injustice and torture, portents and signs, I see it all with these dead fish eyes of mine. This next poem is a little nasty. It's entitled Hater's Elegy. I hate you. I hate that you led me on, and I hate that I fell for it. I hate that you told me you cared, and I hate that I believed you. I hate that to you it was nothing, and I hate that to me it was everything. I hate that you walked unpunished, and I hate that I couldn't get under your skin, and I hate that you forgot my name, and I hate that I remembered yours, and I hate that you're so pathetic, and I hate that I pity you. I hate that you exposed me and my selfishness and my narcissism and my delusion and my petulance and my disregard and my hate and my hate and my hate, my hate, my hate, my hate, 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 hate. Hate so undeserved, so all-encompassing, so comically vehement, and most importantly, self-serving. I wish that you would hurt, I wish that you would cry, I wish that you would rot, and I wish that you would die. I wish that you would remember, and I wish that you would regret. I wish that you would fall apart, and I wished you'd stay in debt. I wished upon you pain, I wished upon you grief. I wished upon you fear, I wished upon you loss. I wished upon you this and that and everything in between, and I wished it in spades. My repentance came gradually, without much fanfare. I became sentimental, I became soft. I became regretful, forgiving, humanitarian, pacifistic. When we next met, you were scared, terrified. You shivered and stuttered, racked by anxiety and simple fear. Your words came quickly, desperate. I visited upon you kindness and understanding, and you returned it shakily. You wanted to fix things. You wanted to make things right. You wanted to fix things. You wanted to make things right, and I'm sure you wanted to make me go away. I strung the dialogue on, feeding your ego and diminishing mine. In truth, my intentions were impure. I wanted to force you to think of me, to know more of me an ignorable facet of personal history. I wanted to be significant in your development, to have a tangible effect on your well-being, to make you remember, to worm my way into your soul. I wanted you to think of me when your parents screamed at you, when your friends ignored you, when your stomach ached with loneliness, when your mind flooded with thoughts of the past, when you tried to forget the things you'd done, when you tried to turn your life around, when you tried to be a better person, when you lay sleepless, when you lay drowned in self-hatred, when you tried to smoke it all away, when you felt guilt, when you felt joy, and when you felt hurt. I wanted you to know my name. As we talked, this malevolence faded. I felt from you despair. I felt from you grief. I felt from you loneliness, sorrow, pain, regret, guilt, hopelessness, and hunger, and overwhelmingly, fear. We sorted things out. I felt a lot better. A weight lifted from my shoulders, heavier than one would think. As the sun held my face in its comforting hands and blades of grass tickled my bare feet, as the world itself seemed to stand still and as my battered body rested limp for a moment, I felt no hate for anything, no hate for anyone. Not even you. Not even a lying, cheating, self-centered, useless, altogether disreputable con man of a pedophile. Next one's a little longer. I'd like to apologize to anyone I've ever loved and to everyone who has ever loved me. Some of my people say that when they press their palm to the earth, they can feel something pushing back. When I do the same, I feel no heartbeat, only something that's been building for centuries, reaching a boiling point. Old blood bubbling over, staining my delicate feet as I squish through swamp mud, reed stalks twixt my toes, gnats round my matted, filthy scalp, and cattails cross my soiled face, twisted in an insipid grin. Trickster, coyote, contradictory, oxymoronic, dichotomous half-breed, ever caught between extremes, too weak to commit and too strong of will to let either side win out, a monk and a hoe, ebb and a flow, serpent and Christ, abstinence and vice, a birth and a wake, priceless, historic, antique, and slipshod, haphazard, conspicuous fake. Meticulously metered rhyming prose and a clunky monologue. Only one massive tangential topic shift later, I am in a 27-year-old's car. He's ugly, not offensively so. He asks my age and I respond truthfully. His face screams of second thoughts. At this point, I am shaking. A sudden realization, I don't want to be here. We arrive. I comment on the tidiness. It's an Airbnb, actually. I feel like a lamb before slaughter. Do you want to do it? An idiotic question. You're the experienced one here. A reasonable answer. And yet his eyes betray something strange. I ask a question. He answers, and a wave of context previously misunderstood hits me like oh so many trucks. Despite his denial, this man is a virgin. Within me, a paradigm shifts. I think he noticed my expression change, even behind my cloth mask. Eyes are all he needs. My thumb shifts on the hilt of my wooden sword. My knees bend nigh imperceptibly. There is not even a semblance of a bit of an inkling of a shred of a fraction of a minute possibility of an idea of a doubt in my mind that were that man to have remained silent for a second more, I would have killed him. Instead, divine intervention. He must run an errand. He drives me back. I spit some warning venom and slam the door. How did this happen? Let's begin with my hatred for myself. At any moment within me rages a battle of extremes. Nothing I can do can ever be good enough. Failure elicits the same reaction as success. Effort is decidedly suboptimal. On one hand, cool, unbothered, intelligent, logical, shit-ass pragmaticism. On the other, ambient spirituality, dreams of martyrdom, blood-soaked righteousness, and frenetic panic of the mind. My existence is a rat's nest of uncertainty where the only constant is an elusive something I have to prove to an illusory someone. My feet sink into the marsh, his teeth into my soft, exposed neck. Half of what I said here is fiction. I sobbed, all the while never crossing your mind. Am I going too fast? My problem is that I understood. I watched, my vision yellow tinged over this world, and I knew things that I was terrified, perhaps rightfully so, I cannot recall. Shortly after, I got to thinking hard about the world and my place in it and your place in it. Oh God, how could he do that? And oh God, how could I let him? And oh God, what seems like hell to me is nothing for others. And oh God, maybe we are fucked. Oh God! Any further revelation is hidden from me. What could have been so horrible as to induce memory repression in a man of my demonstrably exceeding mental fortitude eludes me. That's the point, I guess. I found myself becoming more and more and more unlikable, irresponsible, belligerent, in what would appear to be a hope that the world would find me undesirable enough to discard of. I almost took matters into my own hands, or so I said, or so others were told. Even I could not identify to you where my lies end and truths begin. Inexplicable even to myself. Stimulus, response. Stimulus, response. Stimulus, response. You deserved it, didn't you? That's horrible. What goes around comes around. No one deserves that. Maybe you did. No, you didn't. Yes, we did. No, I didn't. Yes, I did. But it doesn't matter. The wind of change is upon us. I will not deprive ourself of its touch. It's bigger than me and me. As for me, coyote sustained on the trash of a rapidly gentrifying husk of a nation, where I bleed, the marsh spreads, where I breathe, wind shivers out gospel in willowy tongues, cattails sway in this coagulated breeze, crown of thorns embedded in brittle bone, the next great 21st century schizo. On the left hand, path untrodden, rain of vertebra, runner o'er the meadow, clever coyote and crooked vulture, whistle of reeds and cloud of gnats, hunched Buddha and raped Christ, detestable saint of saints, misquiwig and nabig. I'm a rambler, I'm a gambler, I'm a long way from home, and if you don't like me, well, leave me alone.
Wow, Oscar, that was really powerful. Thank you. Another round of applause for Oscar. Amazing, right? Amazing. Okay, and on we go. You're shorter, so I'll go down this way. Okay. Next, happy to bring up Angela Wang. Angela is a 11th grader at the University School of Milwaukee. Please welcome Angela Wang.
Hi everyone, I'm really excited to be here in front of you today. I think that with each of my poems, each contains like a part of my identity, so I hope you enjoy them. Can everyone hear me? Okay, great. The first poem is titled Exidum cum amore est, With Love Comes Ruin. and it shows my grapple with our society's definition of love. They told me love was gentle, a soft breeze slipping through curtains, eternal sunshine. But now, as he knocks the breath from my lungs, tightening his hands around my throat, he calls it love, too. They told me love was stolen glances, the slight brush of fingertips until they interlock. But now, as he rips the clothes from my skin, pleasuring himself with my limp body before tossing me away like a rag doll, he calls it love, too. They told me love was safe, were a deep, vulnerable warmth, a sanctuary. But now, as I clutch my cardigan tighter, fleeing teeth that devour little girls in the shadowed alley, he calls it love, too. They told me love was tender, where communication flourished, emotions controlled within. But now, as I watch anger overcome him, leaving black and blue in his wake, he calls it love, too. I want to love like how Orpheus loved Eurydice, carrying her light with his tunes, a devotion that defied death. But when I turn, I see Demeter pinned beneath Zeus, a man she called a brother, her cries immortalized, carved into marble. I want to love like how Hou-yi loved Chang'e, sacrificing her beloved foods to the moon until it became a holiday, begging for her to return. But instead, ugly sobs rack my body as I beg him to stay, promises spilling from my lips to be the perfect body, the perfect girl. I want a love wicked and beautiful, like Romeo and Juliet, a love that burns eternal. But when I dig deep, I find young women swallowed whole, blinded by stories of passion by a man who only wants to ravage her body. I used to yearn for the idea of love they created for me, but instead I am terrified to think of it. Will he love me, or will he utterly tear me apart? The second poem is titled The Storms That Tie My Family and is about my grandmother, my mother, and I. My grandmother grew up in China and she was trained all her life to become a teacher. My mother grew up with the Gaokao, or the high school exam that determines what college she goes to, and then she immigrated to America, where she also experienced the American college system. And then me, I grew up with the American education system. And with all these different experiences with education, we're still very deeply connected. In the large ocean of possibility, we rule. Amidst the vast depths of the basin, we forged our own path to a brighter future. We are 3 generations of women, interconnected by the resilience in our blood. We are 3 generations of women, blazing our own paths. We are 3 generations of women, each of our fights expanding the path for the next. The grandmother merged lakes to form the ocean, crafting every detail with pride. The mother faced the sea, taking on the storms that attempted to keep her down. And as the daughter, we drew our strength from the waves that our ancestors calmed for us. From the swell of our breasts and the curves of our hips, to our silken black hair billowing in the stormy wind, we have long been kept in the water. We fought to keep our heads above the whirlpool, clawing against the waves that attempted to drown us. We are workers, bearing the weight of our families on our backs. We are explorers, expanding the horizons for generations to come. We are learners, eager to absorb any wisdom we receive. Our thirst for knowledge created an unwavering ship, navigating the uncharted terrains. We are dreamers. We are believers. We are 3 generations shattering the shells that once confined us. We are free. The last one is called The Stages of Abuse. Was it ever love? And it describes the illusion of a picture-perfect relationship and how quickly that can turn ugly. You were a dream, my youth renewed from the gentle way you caressed my skin, the way you worshipped the ground I walked on, the way you made a museum out of everything I wore, the way your mouth whispered the assurances I craved, the way I became a goddess, the way you became my god. Honey-glazed lips, perfectly sweet. I floated among the clouds of heaven when I tasted you. Freshly picked fruit, soft, warm-spun cotton candy, sweet. You left behind a trail of sugar, singing from the heart you pampered with care. You became a nightmare, my youth stolen from you forcing yourself into me, the way you sought to destroy my world, the way my clothes couldn't hide my ugliness, the way your mouth hissed ruthless threats, the way you tore me down, the way my body lies limp at the bottom of your pedestal. Syrup-coated lips, sickly sweet. I resist my urge to gag when I taste you. Rotting fruit on the ground, expired wine, sour. The trail you left behind was a trail of blood, seeping from the heart you ripped from my chest. You were a nightmare. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Such powerful imagery in your work. It's quiet but powerful. Thank you. All right, so our third reader, Ilysium Nollie from Tenor High School, 11th grade. Please give a warm welcome to Ilysium.
Oh, that's got a bit of a lean to it. That's fun. Can everyone hear me all right? Yes. Well, I'm kind of scared of that. I don't even know if I can speak after that, guys. I'm gonna try. I don't cover nearly as heavy topics, but this is my letter to my history, to my dad, and to the world around me. The first poem's called Spare Flesh. I killed your daughter. And for that, I am sorry, but I could bear her screams no longer. And she submitted so willingly to me. On that day, I built an altar and sacrificed her there to myself. She was a disciple of me, ever willing to serve, and for that service, I took her into myself, used her flesh to sustain me. I drank her blood, fixed her DNA to mine, joined them irrevocably. She would always be mine. But never again would her screams meet my ears. Never again would she denounce my name. Instead, the pits of my stomach would be her home. I threw up and spat out her bones, carved my name into each one, carved a prayer into her rib cage to keep her spirit from me, to keep her from returning to life and destroying the effects her worship has done onto me. Her soul within me may never know how I ripped her skin, tried to stitch it into a shape I recognize as my own. I threw away her vocal cords, her form, her happiness. They are useless to me. I crawled into her, made her one with me at the first heartbeat, destroyed her at the first breath, a parasite. She was born with me. She ignored me until I grew larger than her. She was my parasite, the same as I was hers. Forever now she will be silent. I thank you, Father, for the spare flesh. Thank you. This next one's called Big Bad Wolf. It's kind of about the government right now. I deserve a future. There shouldn't be any more words. I shouldn't have to justify myself any further. But I keep checking boxes of the people my world doesn't want anymore. My bastardry, the people who share my blood, the single father that raised me, the boy that lives under my skin, and the lack that breathes within me. If we were all sheep, our king was too big, his teeth were too sharp, we would question. We would ask why his laws would have the weak flank the sides. We would object when our young stopped coming home. We would not let ourselves be picked off one by one. Us timid sheep would scream out wolf and eat the thistle off of his stolen thorn crown. We would call for the shepherd, and if he did not come, we would flee from our pens, find shelter. We would not let ourselves be powerless. But that is not our fairy tale. The big bad wolf is here. He's blown our houses down, and we have not wondered why grandmother does not look like she once did, why she doesn't fulfill what we were promised she would be. We just pull the red hood over our eyes, blind ourselves to what we should see. And all at once, I lose my future. All at once, there are boxes to check where there never have been, where there never should have been. And I have to fight for my right to exist. Thank you. This last one's called This Fine City. It's about growing up here in Milwaukee. This city was run down, ragged with the shuddering breaths of its few living residents. It was the dead that took comfort there, dead hopes, dead dreams. You were never alone in this city then. The ghosts would follow you, a curse hunting down its next victim, and though the homes were always at your back, it was constantly lonely. Lonely with the cold, swinging that sweet tune of can't afford, of used coats, too small and splitting at the seams. Lonely with the hunger, the starving yourself to afford to put gas in that junker you drive, the being too hot from labor to eat. Lonely with the luxury of food rotting in dirty fridges, the cheapest thing you could afford, no time to stuff it down. Lonely with life brimming at every edge and spilling over into you. At least you are alive. Residents of this city can't often claim that for themselves. Death hangs thick in the air there, and it's hard to be alive with the smog of it stuck in your throat. This fine city will chase you forever, haunting you like its residents, only ever to leave you breathless on the floor, waiting for the salvation of becoming one of its ghosts, becoming one with the place that loves you. The city was home. It loved us the same as we loved it. The dust, the dark, the mold blooming like an open wound, there was never anything more home than that. Than every measure you took to stay alive. This fine city was our modern poverty. Was working 2 jobs just so the water would stay below your throat so you could pay the bills, so your dear child would never know that they were poor, so 4 people could afford a 1-bedroom apartment, so every adult in that house could own a gun because no one felt safe otherwise. This fine city was overtaken with luck. Good opportunity, a connection that pushes you forward. Hard work, yes. Favorable circumstances, more so. Slowly, the city grew, and parks and palaces made a home of it. The cold could not penetrate new coats, and hunger could not ravage a fed soul. 1 war turned to 2, turned to 3. Black mold, empty cars, turned to clean, comfortable living before tired eyes. You brought this city back to life, just as your daughter brought life back into you.
Ilysium, you have no reason to fear other poets. You are amazing. And I love how you brought the city of Milwaukee into the room, because I'm so proud of this city. Yeah. So there's going to be some deliberations, and it's my pleasure to continue the program. And so now we get to hear Aleena Ahmed, Milwaukee Youth Poet Laureate 24 to 2025, do her outgoing reading. Are you ready? All right. So now you all can just rest. Judges are going to do their thing. You can just bask in the words. I know you get a lot of energy and you get nervous before you come out, but that means you care. So that's good. If we didn't care, you wouldn't be nervous. So please welcome Aleena Ahmed.
Hello, everyone. That was phenomenal. I am so blown away by each of your performances today. Seriously, genuinely. It's just good to know that the future of poetry is in good hands. And I always say that one of my favorite things about poetry is that it makes an impact. And I think each of you here today impacted me with your words and your experiences. So thank you. I have a couple of words before I get into my reading today. I just want to thank the Milwaukee Youth Poet Laureate program for everything that it has offered me during my term. For one, I think one of my favorite parts was the poetry camp and seeing and meeting so many new phenomenal young writers, yes. And I think that my internship there kind of helped me see how instead of teaching other writers, I think the other writers there ended up teaching me. Because being surrounded by such a diverse range of people kind of helped me realize the unique relationship that we have with writing and that each of us have something to bring to the table, no matter who we are, each of our unique experiences and identities. And yeah, just seeing how poetry can unite people together no matter where we come from. With every poem you read, I think we all have something to take from it. We all have some kind of perspective. It has its own interpretation to us. So I think that was really, really very impactful to me. And I think another favorite thing about this program was the fact that it had given me the platform to make an impact for other communities as well. Something that I really, really cared about last year as a sophomore was we had this class in US Gov where we learned about the injustices of the criminal justice system. And after kind of hearing about the process of how youth become incarcerated and how oftentimes this comes from communities that don't have an impact, I think I became compelled to help people part of those communities and kind of give support where there is none. So I'm really, really grateful to be able to have been given the opportunity to fundraise, to purchase books for the Velar Phillips School for the Incarcerated Youth. So, yeah. And I think this is just everything's coming full circle for me sitting here, because I remember standing here as a finalist last year, and that was my first time performing. I was so nervous. I don't know if any of you saw the video, but I was downing that water down so fast out of anxiety, and I was still dehydrated. So it was like, I get the nervousness. I completely understand how some of you might be feeling. Oscar's chill though, he's doing well. Yeah, hi Oscar. But none of you have literally no reason to be nervous. I think I'm just happy to be here. I'm so glad. And I think the reason why I struggle with so much anxiety then, and I don't think I struggle with that same kind of anxiety now, is realizing that the purpose of art is not to be perfect. It's not to hold yourself up to some standard of technical skill. The purpose of art is to connect with people, and it's to show our authentic human experience. And that was the biggest lesson I learned from this program. So I just want to say thank you so much for giving me that opportunity. Thank you to everybody at Woodland Pattern, and thank you to Antonio. Yeah, hi Antonio. Yeah. Oh wait, I want to talk about that workshop as well, the Yapper workshop. That was my favorite thing ever because I love to talk. Anybody who knows me, I don't know if you can tell, but I love to talk. And Antonio was like, wait, why don't we turn that into a workshop? So for a while I tried to, incorporate that into writing and, show people around about how to just unleash your inner yapper and to just write without any kind of restriction, write without anxiety, and just allow yourself to trust yourself and your intuition. because that's the biggest thing I struggle with. So, that being said, I have a few poems that I would like to share today. I'm sorry if these are a little repetitive, but I do love these very much. So, this first poem is probably my favorite thing I've ever written. I think it's it's very bittersweet. It's very limiting and limitless, and it's inspired by leaving Bangladesh, which is my parents' country, and despite the fact that I'm an American, I have a very unique connection to that place. So, yeah. You used to stand still, pinned to the earth like rock amongst waves, spindled with salt that burn against wound, and yet you left yours open, colliding with minerals centuries old under the bleeding sun. Rays dispersed into shards of crystal turn infinitesimally small between my feet and spill into a melange of saffron and paprika across air as I breathe in the years between us that inched us separate, inched me further. Allow the turmeric beneath my nails to dissipate under warmth, lift under light, and question its existence in your presence. This bay turns balm, thick and solid amidst movement, but not yours. You melt in eternity of motion into this frozen space I wish could stay still forever. That was Turmeric Stains. This one is called Rainfall, and it's just about rain. I've noticed there's a difference in American culture versus Bengali culture because in Bangladesh, the climate is so hot and tropical that people quite enjoy when there's a little bit of rain out, and we kind of celebrate it. Wasn't in America, I guess we see it as like a sickness and run away and everything, so this is me appreciating rain. Mangoes breathe from a summer born of sweat and bone breakage. We traipse in clay skin, made kiln in this heat, and befriended a precipitation of indigenous understanding between soul and suffering forged from our pores, and this exfoliation of sin, photosynthesized into this new layer we breathe. In these syllables of liquid melody, I hear speak in a language my lungs ache to know, to memorize. This southern dialect tied to my esophagus. I etch its name into the softened mud and throw whispers in the wind that return with orange fruit worth a centuries-long navigation. This one is a recent poem that is kind of like a combination of like other poems I've written before. And I've turned it into just kind of like a commentary on juggling my identity as somebody who was raised in America as a Bengali. And then also as an American, when I visit Bangladesh, I'm regarded as more of an American than a Bangladeshi person. So this is called Transatlantic. Laughter carries mango across the transatlantic, where I meet a transfusion of yellow and blue, unrecognizable from the original. I see descendants, trace lines and pattern history into its intricate factors of life and fire and water. I see beaches with a century's worth of sand, encrypted code that falls over time, captures existence, but only until washed over. My mother traces my brow, generations of flight threaded into one colliding entity, one bridge between mudding root and berry, between grave and limelight, between atmospheric pressure and dark matter. These wings of flight, she says, are interconnected like life and death, peering into a window of generational light and luxury that I now possess. I used to grind inklings of the transatlantic beneath my feet, walk the pier off rocky carbon and pressurize, oxidize, and resurface. It is here, amidst the thickness of sky, never once fully bright, fully visible, fully honest and discerning, where I learned to bleed diamond from skin, spring structure into scaffolds, and bloom under the scorching sun. Here, beneath the lotus bloom clawed mud, where I learned to breathe, it is here where I rise. This poem is a bit more tense, but it's basically a commentary on how society can be very ignorant, and how we like to think that we've come a long way. We like to think that we've learned our mistakes from the past, but I question whether that's really the truth, given the current events of today. This is called At This Moment. At this moment, I find myself questioning, how far can one be influenced until something changes? Our brains were once fresh clay, pliant and molded into common thought that the sky is blue, that we bleed red, and love is pink. But that is only because we have not bled enough, because we have not been ripped far enough to see how the gallbladder spills green, how red turns mudded and black against cement that rock children to sleep, because we do not know dismemberment. We do not know how to break bone and feed it, or spin skin into cloth, because to not know is a privilege. At this moment, I find myself questioning the malleability of morals. How many times we have justified crimes against humanity, rewind and regret, find remnants of flesh and stuffed animals, rewind and regret, promise change and renewal against mass suffering, rewind and regret, document it into history. At this moment, I find myself asking, how do you get away with killing innocents? We allow this ignorance, this bias, this stench to permeate our brains and clog our hearts. This poem is lengthy, but it's about celebrating human innovation and curiosity. This is called Predestination. Cloud breathes stellar wind in these infinite skies. Curiosity precedes conception and life is born. It is said that man was made through question, through discovery that realm is finite in not matter but being. There has been proof of our existence made long before Lascaux, handprints overlapping cave walls in man's first discovery, first reflection of flesh and texture on limestone, marinated over centuries of stratified gravel, first realization that our fingers can carve life with clay pigment, bring color to carbon, and drag diamond fruit from the pits of hollow earth. Who would have known that stars are a predestination of humanity? Every atom of oxygen in our lungs, carbon in our muscle, iron in our blood, and dust in our air was first born plasma, fire-cracking spheres of momentum driving direction, years spent anchoring Polaris shoulder by shoulder and gliding through seas exponentially wide of knowledge. We swim under moonlight, sit under the still of dusk, and gaze upon marble nebula. Sow story and anguish into shapes we mimic with our hands and trace with our fingers, touching vacant air and yet feeling home. This last poem is a poem I'm rereading, and is the poem I read when I was competing here last year. It's called Paralysis, and it's a tribute to the struggles of immigrant parents. Paralysis, the need to be buried, hidden, become one with the water beneath life and lily pad. Fear is an insect with legs that seep into my pores, take over my skin. If only you knew, Bhaiya would say. Before the invention of shoes, women walked barefoot. Home was the naked back, calloused and yet welcoming to infant arms. Feet bled and carried rubble, carried sediment and salt, journeyed through mud and floodplain. If only you knew, our history is documented into the pores of her skin. Fossilized and encrypted, no need to relive it, and yet it is ever present. All the scarring, all the sacrifice, accumulation of croaking voices and scrubbing blood beyond any proof of its existence. If only you knew. Every sacrifice made. She could have stayed home, be woken by the rhythm of rain, lyrical and vivacious beneath the tender sun. Myriads of conifers at every inch of her home, eager arms garnishing her neck with jasmine, coating turmeric thick on her skin, massaging her scalp with mustard oil, wandering through Gashful near the riverside. Her head is clouded of these rainy days. Everyone bundled up, close together, eating ilish. If only you knew all the risks. Every entry into unknown territory, diving headfirst, unknowing of where to land or how to swim. Tides push and pull, moisture clusters together, garners thunder and storm. The current sweeps her away. These waters are warped. She doesn't understand. She doesn't know how to survive. Rain only sings an ode for sickness here. If only you knew. Every look into a mirror, unable to recognize the stranger staring back. Every time it came back, that violating sense of confusion and discomfort and guilt. She is cold, cold, shivering. Every time she mistook a seething hand for the radiance of the sun, the warmth of her country. If only you knew. Perhaps you wouldn't be so afraid. How did she live above the lily pad? However cold, deprived of sensation, of comfort, of her life. Paralysis is hereditary, he says, but so is capacity, so is strength, and so is freedom. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aleena. One more round of applause for Aleena. So I'm going to read some poems now. And I made a few notes, but I want to start with a poem called What in That. It's one of my favorite poems. I say often I found myself on the page growing up. That's how I got to know myself. This poem is called What in That, and before I wrote the poem, I heard this sound. And then the poem. What in that? What woman picked the corn, split the husk, and molded the seed that fed the people and opened the world? What being climbed down the tree, made the savannah a refuge? Who caught the strike that lit the bush, that started the spark that became the flame, that lit the hearth and traveled village to village, hollowed horn of smoldering smoke that started the fire, that cooked the kill, that fed the self to grow so big? What worker birthed the child, cut the cord, swaddled it, and kept on going down her row? What mother walked thousands of miles with two hands held in those smaller than her own? What father carried his child over mountaintops, swam through rivers, crossed deserts and lakes with one arm? What prisoner pierced the lock, walked out into the sunshine? What grandparent let her daughter sleep while the child rose, bathed its skin in rose water and lavender, sang songs of ones and twos until it cooed back ohs and ahs blowing bubbles? What woman picked the corn, split the husk, and spilled the seed that fed the people and opened our world? That's what in that. I want to share this zine here, Love You to Pieces, that was part of the Youth Poet Laureate cohort. And if you want to look at it, please come look at it. It's ekphrastic poetry. So students at Edgewood College took the poems and turned them into art. And so they speak to one another. It's a really beautiful thing. But I often learned from my Youth Poet Laureate folks more than maybe I taught them, except for when we talked about commas for an hour, which I'm like, yes, let's talk about commas for an hour. That was great. It was so much fun. But Madeline, we did a reading together at Artlit Lab. And if you don't know what Artlit Lab is, when you come to Madison, check it out. It's similar to Woodland Pattern, except for they have a parking lot. They're attached to a building. And I just really love the work that they do, and they're so welcoming. So please do, if you're in Madison or you see that they have a reading or they have an art show or they have a workshop, check them out. They're just wonderful folks. So this is called Lanterns in the Dark. And Madeline said, well, we're getting ready for this reading. Let's think about lanterns. Like, what do we look for when we're feeling down? So I call this Lanterns in the Park. The call that says, I am still here, waiting. A long open highway clear of snow, the white drifts wisp a black pavement, an email that said yes, an email that says no. The way news circles the globe arrives in my ear, the rare moments of inner silence, the news we are part Neanderthal after all. Ancient molecules bubble up from permafrost, join the 21st century. The hours the artist spent on their knees, body praying to the tapestry, weaves gold, scarlet, sapphire in the loom. The smell of strong tea in the background, a pot of honey from the next door neighbor's bees, goat cheese on sourdough with jam you made at the end of last summer. The sun in the strawberries warms the mind. The breaths of each poet in the room, each open vow, the O's opening we can crawl through, come out on the other side, cleansed anew. A second chance. Picking up the phone, answering the knock at the door, the text saying you're next for the scan that will, maybe, save your life because someone said yes, and every cell in your body lined up, every brain neuron nodded hello. It's Lanterns in the Dark. So I'm going to read from my 3rd and 4th chapbooks here. One of them has this cool yellow sticker. Like when I was a child at the library, I wanted a sticker, and I got my sticker. So this poem is called Patina. Body scars, older lives, tongues, caresses, whip marks, spilled milk, broken fences. My skin is a patina of conquerors, the conquered, slave smiles, earth hands flattened by the press of burnt tin, wheelbarrows. Sleek hair shows up white now and then when thoughts of carnage and lost people slay pigment. Survivors can live through lines on a page, their voices ringing in pencil and ink. Beyond death, art speaks. I have always been a woman. Your sister's bloodlines pulse fire in your veins. Our wee ventricles burst on occasion. Brain beats still asleep, muses on all the people you know who have passed to the grave. To vases of bone and ash who walk in dreams, speak lines of poetry in the dark, their voices alive at night. That's Patina. So I have a grandmother who gave me my first journal at the age of 7 and started this writing journey for me. And I think about the multiple generations that got me to this point. So this is a poem like I might read to introduce myself to people who don't know me. And to write this poem, I went and sat on my ancestors' graves and kind of channeled them. But as children, we would go and we'd clean up the graves. So I'm 2nd and 3rd generation Mexican-American from Iowa. And my family came up on the Rock Island Railroad in the late 1800s and settled when their kids went to school. And you may not know this, but my sister's an AP at Rufus King High School, and she shows up in these poems too. So this is called Arboretum. Arboretum frames Mexican bones, bodies who built railroads with broken backs, raw hands. An 1880 census conceals us carving holes in steel cars for light night air, hanging hammocks for sleeping wives to rock under galaxies. One woman rides the continent, follows her man from Zacatecas, thighs astride her clacking motorbike, belly swings on a swing, sways on the rails until... Where they lived in boxcars until kids were grown, where postpartum was unknown and unbalanced women God sent back. Where my grandma, her cousins hid on the school hill to eat quesadillas. Neighbors claim the old man rode with Pancho Villa when men in suits leap off skyscrapers in New York. Where my mom and Tia pretend not to speak English, teasing shopkeepers on the square. Where my dad ran cross-country to escape those fences farmland until he broke a mahogany streak on burnt clay tracks. Where my uncle strove through bullets in Vietnam, dragging his buddy to the helicopter. And grandmothers trade apples for pears, fingertips and ashy wrist, dig out change at the market, dole out tortillas during meals, one hand on the open flame, one hand flutters, holds the blue house dress. Where peony roots divide on their own, sparking an arboretum of sweet pink light, whose perfume carries itself uptown to the courthouse in drafts with garlic and chile. Where my sister came, the day my grandfather was buried, water gushing graveside, and summers meant vaulting between family houses, rhubarb sticks dipped in bone-white sugar, rope swing thigh burns, treasure hunts in the gully. Where I visit now, water their parched Easter lilies as they lie beneath the grass, thank them for surviving Midwest winters, wars, and lynchings, for firewood split, mole recipes on parchment, for raising people who love so much it hurts to swallow, for lessons on how small Carmel women united overcome great sorrow, for sharing their one red lipstick and rose hand lotion when I was a girl flowering. So I have this collection called How to Write Absence that I'm working on. It's out at a couple places, but I get to share that in July I get to go to San Antonio and work with Kevin Young, the poetry editor. Yeah, I'm like from the New Yorker. I'm like, really? I get to do this? I'm a Macondo Fellow. And Macondo Fellows were, Sandro Cisneros started the group Macondo Fellows, and I'm a Mocondista. But to be a Macondo Fellow, you have to have like writing and you have to have service, and it has to be like global service. So it brings together writers and social justice folks from all over the country. And this year I get to go in person, and I had to apply, so I'm really, really proud of that, to keep working on my craft. And I don't know about you all, but I love to edit, and I think of poetry as a visual art form. So much to do with craft and so much fun. So this is a poem called Looking for Signs While Driving, and I worked for the ACLU Wisconsin and lived in Madison while I was getting my MFA, and I would go back and forth. And I drive and I travel and I write, and I find writing in airports and in trains and planes just to be wonderful. It's super fun. And I also like doing listening to other conversations, picking up snippets, and observing humanity when we're all come together. And I have a deep love for people. I really do. This is called Looking for Signs While Driving. Birds float, flit, hang, dive. Weightless they scatter patterns, black wing parentheses on treetops, keys, piano notes on wires, punctuate aqua sky, powder clouds, a chorus of indecision. At dusk they squirrel, nest on bare branches, tremble in their feathers, rest, periods on white. That's Looking for Signs While Driving. This next poem is called In the Discount Lot. And we grew up in Iowa City. My dad was the first to go to college in our family on both sides. And we lived in family student housing. So the University Bio, where the football stadium is where folks would gather who had children and families. So my best friend was from Australia, and behind us was a family from India. And so like curry's one of those early memories in me. But this is an action. We were part of the Chicano House, and it was during the Cesar Chavez lettuce boycott. So this is me and my sister Trisha in our first political action. In the discount lot. Outside the grocery store, laden with the sweat of tanned field workers, we stand. Little girls in winter coats. Our hands hold signs, leaflets, our dark, long hair, waist length, one straight, one curly. We say to the people who walk up to the glass door, don't buy the lettuce here. They aren't good to their workers. I don't recall anyone said anything back or who stood with us. I remember my sister, next to me, us, in our Sunday velvet vest. She, beret and red plaid jacket, me, white rabbit skin muff. Little brown girls with picket signs, rosy cheeks, big black eyes, legions of ghosts above, behind, angels wing over us, ancestor feathers beat in the invisible breeze each time someone enters or exits the building with a bag full of groceries, oranges and eggs, celery and grapes. That was Poem a Day in November 2021. And I'm going to read just a couple more. They're deliberating, so I'm entertaining you, hopefully. Yeah. There's this great thing called Writing the Land Trust Poets, and they pair poets who are like eco-poetics with like a conservancy, right? So this is for the Patrick Marsh Wildlife Center. And just like with ekphrastic poetry, when you're working with like a picture or art, you get to know that piece of art. So I had to go get to know the land. And I'm really happy to say they assigned me to the Chicago lakefront for next year. So I'm like, wow, the history of lakefront in Chicago. This is going to be interesting. But this is a high bun. So it's a prose block followed by a haiku. And I have this theory, the land remembers. And I have all these poems about the land remembers and the land speaks to me. So this is one of those, the land speaks. The land speaks to me, calls from outside the car window. We pass valleys, hills, what glaciers made 10,000 years ago when people moved to the edges of newborn waters, where ice chunks broke off, became kettle lakes. The sign says basins where ice lay, depressions frozen in time, melt, mark the earth, become altered landscapes, birth novel plants where fish feed and frogs sing and mushrooms grow round white saucer hats that tip over in the spring from the weight of their halo christening. Blue indigo buntings fly by the stars, chart moonlight migrations. While we humans sleep, our feathered friends leap, follow the call to move, swans and geese congregate. See 16 pelicans preen, their necks dipped to drink, undulate herding fish in the water. They dance in rhythm, circle the prey, fin species. Their beaks lead fish to a net made out of ripples, bubbles of gas and air, lethal concentric circles calling names unknown. Before telescopes, night watchers, moonshine parades, dinosaur return. That's the land speaks, and I have to explain that last part. So before there were telescopes, people would watch the birds and count the bird migration by looking at the full moon. And I think that's really cool. And we know that, birds came from dinosaurs, so I like to bring that in. And I don't know, are we close? Does anybody know? Okay, I'm gonna read a poem that was part of an ekphrastic poetry project in Madison, and it's I think we need to remember that there's always been difficult times for some, and we're in our own portion of it now, and folks, you always have to fight. You're never gonna be able to rest. There's not. For the planet, for other people, we're always gonna be in this mode. So this is called Luminism, and I'll let the poem speak for itself, but the artist is in here. Luminism. The light isn't in us. The light is in us. For those who let fire out of their fist chest, raise heart to blue moon and howl. Who bear children or not, who lost one or chose to because we are all complicit in breath and death in the lives of each other. For a holy planet, sun cycle, and golden season, so light do we treat her, thinking we are not half-blinks of history. Sand, our ancestor, Savannah, our first base, for the ones who escape and sparkle in the black ink night constellation-like. With gold rings, blood diamonds that drip, cut the flesh around the finger, hold, blind, and bind. To remove is to suggest separation. Maybe we are right to fling hands up and dance the blues and drink moonshine all night, telling how we could kick our nose or play basketball all day long, bouncing the ball wherever we walked, from the front stoop to the playground at Old Brick Park and back again, eyes ablaze from the heat. Please, sweaty kid smell, going home for supper or not. Maybe our dad died when we were young, too young, and our mom took to drink and Valium, despair destroying her kidneys, bodies strewn on sidewalks. The way we treat ourselves when we hurt, really hurt. This brilliant man, his father's first gift, canvas white plastic, shopping bag split, stretched out on his makeshift desk in the pantry. His Uncle Junebug, mother's brother, a caricature from what vision careens through electric hand to the page, eyescapes, delicate oils, pastels, delineate a man, supreme, hustler, emerald fashionista, gold ring, bullfight-like between nostrils, a spectacle to behold no matter the planet, an uncle. Those lucky with aunts and uncles aplenty never want for metaphors. Pupil light pierces looker, the no count hangs out with royalty in portrait galleries, gazes back at the hoity-toity. That's luminism, and I think, are we ready? Are we ready? Okay, all right, so, thank you. Do you give me the envelope, or do you know? Okay.
This is really heavy, so just give me 1 second. Okay. So the new Milwaukee Youth Poet Laureate is Angela Wang.
I don't really know what to say. I'm really honored for this, and I think like today I really showed a lot of my identity and what really makes me me. And so, I mean, everyone else that I went against had very amazing poems. I'm just truly impressed with their skills, and I hope that I can encourage other people to use literature as a way both to spark change and to show who they truly are to other people. Thank you.
Well, that concludes the program. Thank you so much for everyone that's here. Thank you for the support. Thank you for sharing your work. Yeah, I can't imagine how tough of a decision it was, and every year, and I can't wait to see what Angela can bring for the program. Thank you, everyone.